The local exchange is firming in afternoon trade, with the rand continuing to rally against major currencies, specifically the US dollar. Meanwhile, South Africa's annual inflation rate was 7.2% in December of 2022, down from 7.4% in the previous month. We speak to Roy Mutooni now, Sanlam Investments analyst, about the latest market moves. Thank you very much, Roy, for your time this afternoon. So the rand is rallying against the US dollar. What do we need to understand about what's influencing trade?
Yeah, thanks, Dudu. Thanks for having me. It seems to me it's more a function of dollar weakness. I mean, if I look at when the dollar was at its strongest, which was sometime in October, it's weakened about 10-11% now, and the rand strengthened by pretty much the same number. A bit more volatile on account of local issues such as load shedding and everything else, but the trajectory remains that way. So I think it's more a dollar issue rather than a rand issue, but long may it last.
Long may it last. So consumer price inflation, as we mentioned, was 7.2% in December last year, down from 7.4% in November. Help us make sense of the data and what clues it gives us about the looming interest rate decision later this month.
So again, this is good news. It's maintained its downward trajectory, still above the targeted range and the targeted point, which is about 4.5, but it's moving in the right direction. I think what stood out here is that it's still food, especially cereals and bread that are pushing it, that are keeping it quite high. But I think when the Reserve Bank meets, when the Monetary Policy Committee meets, it should give them at least some reason to pause or at least slow down, pretty much the same way that we're expecting it to happen in the US. So rather than hiking by, I don't know, a full percentage point, maybe they go 25 bips or 50 bips or something softer. So I think it's good news for consumers, but it's still too early to say that the fight against inflation has been won. Right direction, not yet at the right level.
42% of businesses taking part in SACI's trade conditions survey in November and December last year were positive about prevailing conditions. Why?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I look for the data. It just strikes me that, look, there was a lot of optimism going into the festive season. Remember, we had tourists coming back, especially in Cape Town and even in Joburg. So, and Black Friday was also quite solid. So I think that's what it reflected. We hadn't quite gotten into stage 6 load shedding. And I think that's what you'll see reflected when we talk about the January number. But yeah, I think that's pretty much what was in people's minds, because we thought that it was going to be COVID behind us and improvements ahead of us. Little did we know.
Oh, Roy. Steinhoff says it has raised 5.8 billion rand to cut debt by selling shares in Pepco. Will this make a difference at all?
So it's a start. I think they've raised something like 300 million euros. The total debt is somewhere over 10 billion, give or take. So it's something. Remember, they wanted this company to list, which would have allowed them to offload a whole lot more. But that didn't work. At least they've been able to sell this into the market. It's a little dense, but there's still a long, long way to go.
It's still a long way to go. Roy Mutooni, Sanlam Investments analyst. Thank you. Good to see you.